Alright, let's talk about what's really going on, because the recent updates have finally started to make things a lot clearer. Over the last few days, new information about versions 6.4 and 6.5 has been circulating, and while it caused a lot of confusion at first, once you put everything together, the direction Hoyoverse is taking becomes much easier to understand. There's been a lot of noise around these updates, but what matters most is how everything connects. So in this video, I want to walk through what's actually changing, what the new character details mean, and why this all feels more like long-term planning than sudden or rushed decisions. Let's start with the biggest reveal, because this one is no longer speculation. Version 6.4 is bringing Varka, and at this point, his release is essentially locked in. After the most recent adjustments, it's clear that he's been designed as a true on-field damage dealer rather than another support-style character. He's an Anemo Claymore user, but he doesn't play like the Anemo units we're used to. His entire kit revolves around a mechanic called Stormward Charge, which allows him to adapt his damage based on the elements of the teammates you bring with him. Instead of reacting in the usual way, he converts those elements into his own attacks. What makes this especially important is that this conversion can't be overridden. Once his state is active, his damage type is locked in, which means no awkward interactions or lost damage due to outside infusions. When Stormward Charge is active, his normal and charged attacks become significantly stronger. His charged attack, in particular, becomes stamina-free and is clearly meant to be used repeatedly during his damage window. This already puts him in a very different category from most characters, but it doesn't stop there. His elemental skill activates this entire state and unlocks additional attacks that further boost his output. His burst follows up with a fast, heavy hit that adapts to the team's elements before ending with a powerful Anemo strike. The animation is quick, the energy cost is reasonable, and it fits cleanly into rotations without slowing things down. Where things really start to get wild is in his passive effects. Varka gains bonus elemental damage based on his attack stat, and he also receives huge multipliers depending on team composition. Running multiple characters of the same element or pairing him with other Anemo units increases his damage dramatically. When optimized properly, these bonuses stack to levels that very few characters in the game can reach. And then came the V3 changes. His follow-up attacks were buffed, his charged attack scaling was increased, and his constellations received noticeable improvements. His C6, in particular, now grants an enormous critical damage bonus when fully stacked. Even his signature weapon was adjusted to stack faster and scale better with his kit. There were no nerfs here, only buffs, which makes it clear that Hoyoverse intends for him to be a top-tier damage dealer. Looking ahead to version 6.5, things start to shift in a different but equally interesting direction. The next major character is Lana, a 5-star tied closely to nodkrai. She's been referenced multiple times already, and her silhouette lines up almost perfectly with earlier story hints. While her exact element and weapon haven't been officially confirmed, everything points toward her being connected to lunar crystallize, a mechanic that has slowly been gaining more attention over recent updates. What's important here is that this doesn't feel random. Instead of introducing entirely new systems, Hoyoverse seems to be expanding on mechanics that already exist, slowly building an ecosystem of characters designed to work around them. Lana appears to be another piece of that puzzle. Alongside her, a new 4-star named Gretle is expected to appear. This isn't a random addition either. Her name has already been mentioned in dialogue connected to the Knights of Favonius, and her design suggests she's meant to be a trainee or apprentice-type character. Hoyoverse rarely introduces names without a plan, so her inclusion strongly suggests future story relevance, possibly even leading toward Dornman port content. Then there's the part that caused the biggest reaction across the community. A line in the leaks mentioned something referred to as Genshin 2, and that single phrase caused a lot of panic. Some players immediately assumed it meant a sequel, a reset, or even the end of the current game. But that's not what it means. Reliable sources quickly clarified that this is not a new game, not a reboot, and not a separate client. It's simply a way of describing the next major story chapter once the current arc concludes. Nothing is being wiped, no progress is being lost, and there's no reason to think the game is restarting from zero. When you look at it that way, the wording makes much more sense. Genshin has always been structured in long-form story arcs, and this is simply the transition into the next phase of that narrative. The confusion came from phrasing, not from actual development plans. When everything is taken together, the picture becomes pretty clear. Version 6.4 introduces a highly technical, high-damage carry in Varka. Version 6.5 continues expanding the lunar-based mechanics through Lana. Supporting characters are being added in a way that reinforces future regions rather than cluttering the roster. And the story is preparing to move into its next major chapter without resetting or replacing what already exists. This isn't the end of Genshin. It's a continuation, and a very deliberate one. If you're saving for upcoming banners, now's the time to start planning carefully. And if you're interested in how these systems will evolve as we get closer to release, stick around, because there's a lot more coming very soon. Let me know what you think. Are you saving for Varka, waiting for Lana, or holding your Primogems for whatever comes after?